Major AEW plans are in jeopardy, but first, even more names have been released by WWE. On last night's news video, we would cover the ongoing WWE talent releases, with several names being let go from the main roster. In total, there were 9 cuts at that point, with Mustafa Ali, Rick Boogs, Dolph Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin, Riddick Moss, Emma, Alia, Elias, and Top Dollar all set to walk on a new path away from WWE. With that said, word was spreading that NXT releases were inbound, a rumor that turned out to be true. Throughout the rest of the night, multiple names would be confirmed, mostly by Fightful on X, with WWE releasing the following names. Dana Brooke, who is a longtime member of the WWE roster and a former 24/7 champion, was the first NXT name to be let go in this round of cuts, this after recently moving back to the black and gold brand. Marseille and Mansoor, or Mace and Mansoor, have also been let go, who are most recently known for their run as the Maximum Male Models. However, they recently lost their valet, Maxine, before disappearing from television, which in hindsight was an early sign that their careers were heading away from WWE. Quincy Elliott, Shanky, Yulia Leon, Daba Kato, Bryson Montana, Kevin Ventura Cortez, Daniel MacArthur, Alexis Gray, Brooklyn Barlow, and Akeem Injiro also made the list of cuts, all of whom had varying levels of success in NXT, with some even appearing on the main roster from time to time. Interestingly, we have some notes regarding the exit of Quincy Elliott, who has made several appearances on NXT television and NXT Level Up since March 2022. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, Quincy's release wasn't exactly a surprise to those within the company, and he would take to last night's Fightful Select livestream to note: Quincy Elliott was in trouble. Quincy Elliott caused all kinds of issues for the staff in WWE. It was somebody that was always going to be up next on the chopping block, no other way to put it. Quincy Elliott was gonna get cut. Ibu of Wrestle Purist would then add some potential context to the situation on X when he posted the following accusation, and he would write: bottom 10 to 15 wrestler in company history. Even worse though, Cuz was being a freak in group chat with stans talking shit about his black female co-workers. With that said, Elliott appears to be happy about the release, taking to X to state that it's time to celebrate, noting that they have a lot to say, before saying that they'll see everyone soon in 30 days. This seemingly confirms that the NXT releases will be under a 30-day non-compete clause, perhaps with some exceptions like Dana Brooke or the Maximum Male Models, who are potentially on main roster deals, therefore bound by a 90-day clause. With that said, that's just speculation, as I don't have the deals in front of me. And next, this top superstar wants to see CM Punk in WWE. Right now, the wrestling future of CM Punk is anyone's guess, with the Second City Saint currently finding himself as the top free agent in the business following his All Elite Wrestling contract termination with cause. One option potentially on the table for Punk is a return to WWE, although the conflicted past between the two sides does leave some doubt as to if this would ever happen. With that said, the recent Endeavor takeover does increase the chances. This week, multi-time WWE Tag Team Champion Montez Ford would speak with Fox's The Happy Hour podcast, where he was asked about his fellow Chicago native rejoining WWE, a possibility that he sees the positives in, and he would say, "If they asked my opinion on it, I'm so open to every single aspect, talent in the world, whether they come from all walks of life. I feel like everyone has something to bring to the table, believe it or not, whether people love this individual or not, and this goes for any WWE superstar. If they are generating buzz and generating topics and generating people talking, that's all good for business. I love to be the person to always welcome someone back with great arms. If he wants to make his way back this way, I guess we can have a battle to see who is the best person from Chicago." And next, a recent WWE deal has had a bad effect on the company's stock. Yesterday afternoon, WWE would announce a brand new deal for Friday Night SmackDown that will see the Blue brand leave Fox after nearly 4 years on the network, with the show set to return to the USA Network for at least 5 years, a deal that will begin in October 2024. The new deal, which is valued at $1.4 billion and a 1.4x increase on the previous previous $1 billion deal with Fox seems to have been underwhelming for investors. According to Forbes, shares of TKO, the name of the new WWE and UFC merger, would drop more than 12% on Thursday after the announcement of the deal, slumping as low as $84.86 per share, this after trading at around $104 throughout the week. As of this recording, after the stock market reopened today, the stock has dropped slightly lower, with it now trading at $83.80. According to Lightshed Partners analyst Brandon Ross via Sportico, investors are reacting to the rights deal and revealed that there was some investor hope for a higher value on SmackDown, with uncertainty on who takes over Raw also decreasing the value. Next up, major matches have been added to Impact Bound for Glory. On October 21, Impact Wrestling bring the Bound for Glory pay-per-view to Chicago, Illinois, in what is typically billed as the promotion's biggest show of the year. On last night's episode of Impact, 2 huge matches would be announced for the card, with a major return as well as a world title match all set for next month's event. The first announcement confirms the opponent for Will Ospreay, who is making his Impact return and is set for his first appearance since 2016. It's been announced that the aerial assassin will meet former X Division champion Mike Bailey in singles action, with this being the 5th time that they've met one-on-one, with Ospreay holding a 3-1 lead over his opponents. Elsewhere on Impact, it was confirmed that current World Championship #1 contender Josh Alexander will get his shot at Bound for Glory, somebody who never lost the belt after being forced to vacate it in March 2023, which ended the longest reign in the title's history. He will of course meet current Impact World Champion Alex Shelley, who has held the title since Against All Odds back in June. And next, a top AEW name has revealed his thoughts on an upcoming company adjustment. It would recently be reported by Andrew Zarian at the Mat Men podcast that AEW pay-per-views are heading to Warner's Max streaming service, with the goal of producing 1 major event per month. This is in contrast to the original 4 pay-per-views per year that we saw in the company's 2nd year in business, this once television came around, allowing more time to build to the big matches. With that said, AEW announcer Jim Ross has given his thoughts on the potential change on this week's episode of Grilling JR, noting that he prefers the quarterly format, and he would say, "I liked the old format because it gave companies, whoever they were, opportunities to build the anticipation for that pay-per-view and that investment that the fans need to make to enjoy it. You've got to buy it. I think the economy dictates a lot of that. You've got to have a great attraction. Attractions sell pay-per-views. It's that simple. I like the fact that at one time we were able to build stories and strengthen them so that there is more of a desire to buy and to watch. You got to change with the times, I get that, and I have no problem with that either. I just think the storytelling realm of pro wrestling, we're better off with the opportunity to build." It looks like you're right, the trend is going to be that of monthlies. If you're creative enough to build a good story for monthlies, more power to you because it creates more paydays. I'm a big fan of building the story or building the anticipation for the story type situation. Next up, we had the latest on yesterday's WWE main roster releases. As discussed earlier in the video, 9 main roster cuts would be confirmed last night, with many stars set to hit the free agency market come December 20, 2023. We now have some fresh information from Fightful Select in regards to the behind-the-scenes details, as well as some of the reasonings behind the cuts. The report notes that in Mustafa Ali's case, people within NXT had no knowledge that he was going to be released, and he is said to have been working through an injury to make his recent move to the brand happen. His deal is said to have been set to expire in spring or summer of 2024. This after his request to be released was rejected back in 2021. As for Elias, there is said to have been creative pitches for his television return as recently as 1 month ago, with Fightful confirming that injury isn't the reason for his recent absence. The report notes that Paul Heyman was a big fan of now free agent Riddick Moss, and was somebody Heyman felt could be a main event player back when he was running the show. With that said, the sentiment wasn't shared amongst other higher-ups. Fightful would also note that Aliyah, who was also released, was almost never brought to television tapings and was not factored into creative plans going forward. Dolph Ziggler was perhaps the most high-profile name that was released yesterday, somebody who was a former world champion within WWE. With that said, Ziggler is actually said to have been ready to leave WWE years ago and was at one point talked into staying with the company. As for his contract. It was reportedly set to expire next summer. With all that said, we have another report from today's Wrestling Observer newsletter that reveals the overarching reason for this round of cuts, and Dave Meltzer would share a quote from a WWE official, and he would write, "The key to the releases were talent making main roster money but not being used on the main roster, and with the idea that they were not going to be used in the future. It's time in versus how much money you are paid versus return on investments," said one WWE official regarding the talent cuts. And next, major AEW plans are in jeopardy. In the main event of AEW Dynamite Grand Slam this past Wednesday night, Adam Cole would suffer an injury at ringside while supporting his best friend MJF, who was able to retain his AEW World Championship against Samoa Joe. The knock would occur as Cole made his way to ringside, this when he jumped down from the ramp to the floor, seemingly twisting his ankle in the process. Dave Meltzer would take to today's Wrestling Observer newsletter to reveal that whilst Adam was able to pull off the planned spots during the finish, people within AEW are fearing for the worst, and he would write, "He did all the spots he was supposed to do in that finish, but was limping and not moving well. He was taken to hospital after the match, and we still haven't heard a diagnosis. Because nobody heard anything on Cole, people feared the worst." Cole and MJF were scheduled to defend the ROH tag titles at Wrestle Dream on October 1 against Vincent and Dutch, but that's obviously in jeopardy. One of the issues that also arises is that there is an ongoing friendship storyline between MJF and Adam Cole that appears to be building towards a turn from one of the individuals involved. However, Cole's injury could affect any potential payoff. Even more concerning is that MJF and AEW are still playing up to the fact that his contract will expire on January 1st, 2024, likely meaning the company would have planned the payoff to be before that date, even if the contract situation is or isn't storyline. We now wait to find out the extent of Cole's injury and how long he could be out of action for. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.